The other amazing thing about the Fox Float X2 is that, you know, a lot of shocks will have a single clicker on them, like those steering dampeners that people are using on their suspension arms. They have a single clicker that you turn and it clicks, and essentially you can think of it like a camera iris. The more you click on that clicker, the smaller the hole gets, and the more restriction, the smaller the hole is that the oil has to push through. And so the slower the dampening gets. So nothing wrong with that, that works. It is very simplistic, and controlling the movement of an object in space is a lot more complicated than that, because there is not just one kind of bump. So imagine there is sort of a dip in the road, and we're hitting that dip in the road at 40 miles an hour. So what does that feel like in your car? It feels like, right? It's a very slow movement. And as opposed to if you hit a pothole or you're going over what we call a square-edged bump, it's a very quick movement. So we have two different kind of names for that in the suspension game. We have, it's essentially translates to shaft piston velocity, right? So on a slow bump, the piston is moving through the shock very slowly. On a fast bump, it's moving very fast, which means on advanced shocks like this, they can sense the difference between a high speed and a low speed bump. So you'll see here two different colors. The blue is the compression, and that's when you hit the bump and the suspension compresses. And then the red is the rebound. So after you hit a bump and the spring compresses, what is it going to want to do? It's going to want to extend back to its original position. So that's called the rebound. So essentially we have compression and rebound separate from one another. So on the previous example, like I was telling you, if you just have that single clicker, whatever adjustment you put into the bump, you're also putting into the rebound. And so while that works, it doesn't work very well, because what will happen is something that's called shock packing. Essentially, if you have a bunch of bumps in succession, like a washboard road, for example, if you have the same rate for compression as you do have for rebound, the shock will compress, and then while it's going back slowly, it hits another bump, so it compresses again, and then it compresses again. And so what happens is it starts to pack. And so what you really need to do then is actually speed up your rebound. It needs to reset and get ready for the next bump a lot quicker. So this is why you want to separate the compression dampening from the rebound dampening. So on any sort of high-end shock system, you're going to have dual adjustment, separate circuits for compression and rebound. On the inside here, you have an inside and an outside Allen adjustment with an Allen tool. The outside does the high speed, and the inside Allen does the low speed. So remember how I was telling you about a low speed bump and a high speed bump. So this actually gives you control. You can tune the shock to react differently to quick bumps and slow bumps. And conversely, of course, the same thing with the rebound. You can tune it so that when there's a quick bump, it reacts differently going on the rebound. So this is what we call four-way adjustability. With the spring, that's a five-way adjustable. So there is an amazing amount of adjustability in this shock system. And this is the kind of thing you expect from any high-end suspension system on any sort of sports car like a Ferrari, on any off-road race truck, is you have all of these adjustments, because in very complex, very active suspension, dynamic suspension environments, you actually do need this extra level of fine-tuning and adjustment. And you know, going back to where I started, the most important thing is that these damping adjustments that you put into the system maintain a consistent result throughout the use of the shock. And this is where the oil volume comes into play. You know, all the other technologies that are involved in this shock come into play. So this is an extreme piece of engineering. A lot of high technology has gone into this, and this is really what allows such a simple design that we put together to really excel and deliver amazing results.